Welcome back to the Fanspeak Network and another episode of Friends of Basketball. That's right, it's Friday, which means it's Friends of Basketball. I forgot to get a drink, but it's kind of Friends of Basketball happy hour. And I've got Sebastian Fearon with me. He's a physical therapist. We're going to be talking injuries. Then we're going to do a draft together in just 1 minute. That's right. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friends of Basketball. I am looking forward to get back in the streets. I was on vacation last week, so back in the streets and excited to join you guys to talk with another person in the basketball industry. And this person is even better because he's also in the medical industry. So we're going to talk through injuries and all that good stuff. But I've got Sebastian Fearon. He is a physical therapist with the U.S. Army. So I said, thank you for our service. And thank you for being on Friends of Basketball. How are you doing tonight, Sebastian?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Megan? Cheers. I know we'll
I forgot. I got water. I might run and go get it. Because last time you were on with Justin and Andrew in, I want to say, a month or two ago.
Yep.
And I was driving home from somewhere, but I had the stream playing as I was driving home. And you're knocking back a whiskey. And I love it. I love a whiskey or wine. So I'm really bummed I didn't get a whiskey for this, but we're going to have you back so that we can both drink some whiskey together.
Yes, absolutely. I went with this, I figured 6 o'clock, so maybe a little bit early but it's Friday.
A little bit early for the whiskey. I did that on another, actually, with Tyler, who said, happy Friday, y'all. Good to see you, Tyler. Always good to see you. He's been on Friends of Basketball twice. And one time with happy hour, he was stacking cans. I started drinking whiskey at like 6 that night, and it felt a little early for the whiskey that night. So I hear you. So,
hey, football is coming soon. We were talking about it. You got to start. These guys got to ramp up for the season. We got to ramp up for tailgate season. You got to start diversifying. Make sure you're running through the mental reps. So 6 o'clock, it works.
Exactly. Sebastian, I like the way you think. I love it. So, yes. So, tell me about your background first, just as becoming a physical therapist, and then how you like to apply that. Because, by the way, it's the Degen Dog. Follow him on Twitter at the Degen Dog. So, how you apply your knowledge to helping yourself and us Degens?
Yeah, no. So basically, kind of like a lot of physical therapists, I kind of grew up loving sports, right? So it was always kind of, everyone has the dream to be an athlete. And then when you grow to 5'7", that dream comes doesn't get realized pretty quickly. So you turn your love into sports, and then you really appreciate what athletes can do. So I went to the University of Florida and got my applied physiology and kinesiology degree, which is a fancy exercise science. It's just exercise science with bigger words. Right. And then I went to the University of Pittsburgh, got my doctorate in physical therapy. So go Gators, go H2P, and then I commissioned into the Army. And I love football first, and then I really grew to appreciate what athletes can do. I work with injuries every day, work with now my tactical athletes and the soldier population, but the body is the human body, right? So, a lot of the things apply there. So I just think that working with it every day, it's kind of nice. I originally started it with it to stay current with the research, make sure I know, what protocols, what surgeons are doing, what rehab timelines. And then, it found into something that, hey, people, I'm always amazed, but people somehow find a reason to think that what I have to say is helpful to them. So if I can help other people while also, furthering my profession, I just love to do that.
Absolutely. No, there are a lot of Degens who do appreciate your help, and we will get into some of that in a minute. Your wife is in the physical therapist too. Is that correct?
Yes. We met at University of Pittsburgh. Okay. So yeah, she's a physical therapist. I always tell anybody, if you need an actual physical therapist, not just a Twitter one, go to my wife. She's way better than I am. The Army, we do physical therapy, but we like to do some of the more fun stuff too as well. So.
Okay. I like that. I like that you guys are a team, as a physical therapist team. I like that. Okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit about, and by the way, if you're watching, please like this episode, subscribe to the Fanspeak Network. We are on a road. I'm going to do a couple quick board announcements. We are on a road to 1,000 subscribers. We're a little over 300. The first 1,000 is the hardest. So help us get there, and we will do a big $1,000 giveaway party. So with that said, so please tell a friend if you're already subscribed. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And speaking of parties, and you'll appreciate this, Sebastian, maybe you can join us. Andrew and I have a big 8-hour live stream kind of marathon, August 23rd, 4 p.m. to midnight. We'll be rolling through, hopefully getting 8 drafts through, a bunch of different guests coming on. And that will be basically just an extension of Friends of Best Ball, a very long Friends of Best Ball 8-hour. So mark your calendar for that and sub to this channel. So I had to get that through before we get into the nitty gritty here, Sebastian. But I have so many questions to ask you, and we still need to do a draft. So I'm going to get right to it. We've got current injuries that we're looking at. I know the guys were talking about, some of the guys that were rehabbing from stuff, and that was months ago. But here, fast forward to August 2nd, and we need to talk about stuff that's happening right now and what we do with that information. I'll go one by one quickly, and you can give me your quick thoughts. The big one for me, I'm obsessed with Justin Herbert's on Underdog. I've been obsessed the whole time. This whole time I've been like, we're going to look back and say we got Justin Herbert in like the 130s, 140s. That's ridiculous. Now maybe he might fall further. Thoughts on plantar fasciitis? I'm going to butcher the name of this, plantar fasciitis, and how they seem to be handling it correctly, but from what I understand, it can nag. But I mean, listen, before I get into the Justin Herbert thing, I assume, did you watch the quarterback and receiver series on Netflix?
I watched the quarterback. I got one episode into the receiver, not for lack of liking it. I love it, but Olympics is on, so it's kind of taking over the household TV.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you'll finish receiver at some point.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sure you felt this watching quarterback and the first receiver. I mean, the respect for these men, like, as you said, just in this industry, you feel that. But then as just a fan watching it, you're like, oh, my God, what these men have to do to go out and entertain us on Sundays. It's absolutely unbelievable. But what it makes you realize is they're playing through pain all season long. Like, even the best case scenarios that we know nothing about, these guys are playing through. Kirk Cousins the year prior during the quarterback one, he didn't have, that was the year he blew out his Achilles. He wasn't doing it, but, they show him going through all the body work and all the things that he has to do to just play on Sundays functionally as best as he possibly can. They're all playing hurt, banged up, need this, need that, need some body work, need some physical therapy. So, with that said, I know he's Justin Herbert. So now we'll get back to the Herbert thing. I know Justin Herbert's going to be playing through pain, dealing with this, but how does this affect for us? What would you say about this injury particularly?
Yeah, no. So I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. The first one off the rip, but no. So plantar fasciitis, right? So they called it an injury to your plantar fascia. Now, plantar fasciitis is probably 95% what it is. There can be a fibromatosis or some other things. It's for all intents and purposes, it's going to be plantar fasciitis, which is just an inflammation of the plantar fascia. Your plantar fascia is a connective tissue that connects down from your Achilles and goes all the way to your toes, right? So it's kind of this band of taut tissue that helps you to run. It helps you to create that arch. And what it is, it's an inflammation, right? So right now, all we know is his plantar fascia is injured. It's inflamed. So this is a pesky injury. I know this is something that I deal with and probably many people deal with from time to time. It can be cyclical. Like, it can be literally seasonal. It could be due to a lack of warm up, and it can kind of come on at random. So my concern is not for, hey, I think this is going to just really hamper him all the way up to the season. My concern is this going to return at some point during the season, right? Because we can do all the things we want to do correctly up until, we're 39, 38 days out from week 1. Yes, I think he's going to be ready and good to go by week 1. My concern is when he gets a little bit of re-injury in week 3 and you don't have these 40 days or these 2 weeks to be put in a boot, right? Okay. So, this is something that you can play through. And, it depends on the severity. I think we all saw the Tony Pollard situation a couple of years ago where he wound up having to have surgery and just wind up getting what we call a release, where they essentially just cut it because, it's not working because you can still kind of function without it, right? So for Herbert, I think he should be good for week 1, but I do have concerns about this coming back and being a nagging injury at some point during the season.
Okay. The nagging injury side, is that this guy's just going to have to play through some intense pain, or is it like they may need to then re-shut him down for 2 or 3 weeks? Or it just depends. It's just going to depend.
It does depend, like everything, but I would say most people can play through it. But it's one of those things where if, you just can start to take some steps and it just feels off. So as everything, the quarterback is such a cerebral position. Yeah. So if you're thinking about anything, then the millions of things you got to think about that pertain to the game, I talk about with running backs a lot coming off ACL injuries. When you're in your head, you can't afford to be in your head, right? So that's where some of the concern comes. If you're worried about getting injured, you're more likely to get injured, that type of deal. But I will say, I mean, look, I think he's going to be ready for week 1, but my concerns are it's going to come back. And that's not guaranteed, obviously, but that's where I'm thinking.
I mean, Herbert does run a little. Chad, thank you for joining us in chat. He said, will this limit Herbert's rushing? I assume if it flares up, that would be a concern.
Yeah, but honestly, it's the push off, right? So you have to push off when you're throwing. I'm trying to think what foot it is for him, if it's his plant foot or if it's the one that he kind of pushes off from.
It's his right foot, if I'm.
And he's a righty or lefty?
Yeah, he's a righty. Yeah,
he's a righty. Yeah, so it's the one he's pushing off from. So I would honestly be more concerned about his throw power. If it starts to flare up on him and it's just starting to bother him, like it's just going to be annoying to throw. It's going to get a lot of arm throws, stuff where he's going to be kind of falling off the back foot there. So, his rushing. It's really hard because if it's feeling fine, right? If like I said, it can be random. Like I know when I'm at a very, very much lower level fitness wise, but like when I go out to play soccer on the weekends, sometimes my player faster just feels off and it takes a while to get warmed up, right?
Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of one of those things where if it's feeling good, not concerned, but if he does have those flare ups, like you got to push through that in the middle of the game. That's really going to suck.
Well, I might be stubborn with this one. I'm obsessed with Justin Herbert's price, and I might just be hoping Justin can play through that pain and buy the dip. But it's a risk.
He's already at a low ADP, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So if I had my buddy just called me about this, and it's like if you have conviction for Justin Herbert, don't let this make you fall off. Right? Personally, I wasn't a huge Herbert guy coming in, so this just kind of gives me another reason to kind of stay away. But if you're in on him, like you said, it's going to be a dip. People are going to be like, I have no idea if he's going to be ready for week 1. I think he'll be ready and active for week 1. And there's a good chance he can monitor this and fight through it. Right. So.
Okay. All right. We'll keep it because I know I could talk about each of these injuries for 20 minutes each. But Geno Smith, it looked like he had some imaging on, was it hip?
Hip and knee.
Hip and knee. But it looked like imaging came back clean, which means we don't really know exactly what he's dealing with. But again, all these guys seem like, even at this time of year, so there's plenty that aren't 100%. Do you have any concerns with Geno Smith, or we just really don't know enough information to have any concerns?
No, I mean, if there was something concerning, it would have came up on injury, right? I mean, imaging. I was a little concerned the fact they felt like they needed to get in imaging. Yeah. That tells me they didn't know exactly what was going on, which happens. No one has X-ray vision. But, the imaging would have picked something up. So if this was something during the season that he was dealing with, maybe, but he's got 40 days. He's going to be fine. Yeah. No concerns with Geno from this little minor knee and hip.
Okay, good to know. The big one is DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, were you dealing with a knee sprain or kney?
Yeah, it's always funny.
6 weeks is what they're putting on it now. Break this one down for me. I'm obsessed with the Titans. Talk about the obsession with Herbert. I'm obsessed with the Titans. I've been taking all of them. I think they're all too cheap. And so I have plenty of DeAndre Hopkins already. Do I buy the dip as he goes further? Are we just really thinking, he might be out the first couple of weeks, or you can have further concern about the DeAndre Hopkins injury?
Yeah, this one I'd be a little more wary on. And it's funny because, a lot of times you're getting like either the coach that speaks it and then it's like the telephone through the reporters. So like a knee sprain doesn't really tell me anything, or a knee strain. I don't know. Like you've heard, like they'll just throw around different things, right? Unless they're talking about a specific, I'm assuming they're talking about a ligament, right? And I don't know what ligament, so it kind of hampers me as far as what I can do for analysis wise. But 4 to 6 weeks is the expected recovery timeline. So best case, he gets a week before kickoff to practice, and he should be good to go. Worst case, this can linger, right? And it's hard because I don't know exactly what's going on, whether it's an MCL. I know he's had MCL history in the past. LCL, obviously, I don't, I think we would have known if it's not a full tear, right? Because it's not season threatening.
Right.
But I'm a little bit, this does give me a pause, at least until I know more information. I would be hoping it's MCL because your medial collateral ligament, you got 4 stabilizing ligaments in the knee. Your medial one has the best blood flow. It has the most vascularity, so it has the best healing potential. So if I hear MCL, I'm actually, I don't want you to get hurt, but if you're going to hurt anything, hurt your MCL because you got the best chance to regenerate it, right? And then come back and it heal itself. So until I get more information, I'm a little hesitant to click DeAndre Hopkins right now. I also am fairly high on the Titans. As far as, I like Calvin Ridley in that offense and Will Levis and things like that. Yeah. But right now it's going to be hard for me to click DeAndre Hopkins.
Chad asks any odds that you'd put on Hopkins potentially be put on the PUP, or short-term IR, like the PUP list?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I think that would probably either be they thought it was one thing and then it's a little bit more severe, or a setback. Right? They give that kind of range. Like this one's really tough because they're just saying knee strain. It's basically just telling me knee. Right? It doesn't they didn't even say muscle or ligament. I'm assuming ligament based on the timeline, based on their terminology they're using. But it's a lot of assumption. So this one's really hard. I do expect we'll get a little bit more information as we get closer to the season. And we'll this one's just gonna be one you have to monitor really closely and just kind of see when he starts to practice on the side. When does he start to actually go through individual drills to really get a good idea? If it's 1 week before the season and you haven't heard anything about DeAndre Hopkins, that's not a good sign.
Okay. So we'll just keep an eye on that one. Pay attention. We got Albert in chat. Thank you so much for joining us. One last injury that's happened this week, and it scared the shit out of me. It was Roman Wilson. I have, I think, 27% Roman Wilson. It's getting him late. I mean, obviously, if any were to do any trade for like an Ayuk or a big trade, that would sting. But I just think he's going to take over that Deontay Johnson number 2 receiver role for the Steelers. And at the price, I was just scooping a lot. So when I heard a cart, but then my brother, talked about it in the show we did. Like the cart in training camp comes out a lot more because these guys are nowhere near the facility.
You're down the whole.
Yeah, so they bring that cart out basically for anything. So thankfully, it looks like it's week to week with Roman Wilson. It's a sprain there, an ankle sprain?
Yeah. So this one actually, I'm not. This one I'm not too optimistic about as well.
Oh God, you're giving me bad news.
I know. This is the part. This is where like being the injury guy, it's always like, oh shit. All right. Week to week tells me there's there's a couple type of ankle sprains, but the most common low ankle is what we think about when we go on the basketball court or we roll our ankle outwards. It's low ankle sprain. It's your true ankle. It's not really a big deal, right? Your high ankle is above the ankle. You have 2 leg bones, your tibia and your fibula. There's what we call a syndesmosis, a bunch of ligaments that connect the 2 bones. Those ones, they're stronger, so it takes more damage to happen. And with more damage is a longer recovery timeline. Now, typically when it's a mild low ankle sprain, like not a big deal type, it's day to day. Because those guys during the season, some of them will, if they get hurt that Sunday, they will be ready by the next Sunday, right? That one you can kind of work through. Right. When they say week to week, that tells me, without them giving a direct diagnosis, that it's either a moderate low ankle sprain, which I would prefer. That's something closer to that 4 to 6 week, or it's a mild high ankle sprain, which is kind of that 4 to 6, almost 4 to 8 weeks window, right?
The high ankle is the dreaded one, right?
Yes, because those are really hard, especially during the season. Now we're getting close to that point where you really don't want that because yes, they can come back in that 4 to 6 weeks, but we've seen constantly, I'm Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler last year, who they'll come back and they just don't look the same.
Yeah.
Right. So that one really is troublesome for lingering. So the week to week scares me a little bit. I hope it's just the moderate low ankle sprain, kind of your grade 2, which still he's getting close to the season as far as what he's going to be able to do. But if it is a mild high ankle sprain, it does take me off. And regardless, rookie wide receiver, not getting the reps in training camp. Yeah, and there's a true hole for wide receiver too. I mean, my co-host he's a big Steelers fan. He's all about the lures. And, we were talking about who's going to take over that Deontay Johnson role, who's going to be wide receiver 2. And, you look at a guy like Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, who's shown some ability, this kind of leans me a little bit. I moved Van Jefferson up the board for me as far as being able to take over that wide receiver 2 role, just because Wilson at the very least is going to be missing several weeks of time.
All right, we got Murray Lyman chat. Doctor, give me the news. I like it. That's a good one.
That's what you asked for.
I love it. And by the way, you can see Sebastian has a Giants shirt on. I'm a Washington fan, and we can still be friends of best ball. That's what's great. That's what's
are you a Washington? Okay.
I got a shirt on.
I got a prior commitment. I got.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
Hey, come on! Out of all the NFC's teams,
yes.
I think Washington and Giants hate each other the least.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes. That's why.
If I had a whiskey or a wine, I'd cheers.
Yeah, Andrew and I can get along because of that. If it was Dallas or Philly, I
I don't even know if we'd be able to do this show.
I'd have to white knuckle through this episode the whole time. So.
Exactly. Okay. Couple other. So that's the current injuries. Now let me switch gears to quarterbacks coming back from injury. I'll make this quick. I have been also obsessed with quarterbacks that you can get late, and it's the Achilles twins of Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has obviously been recovering. He's trying to come back last year. They both basically haven't played for their new teams, but these are two quarterbacks that are perennial, top 12 fantasy quarterbacks that elevate their playmakers, and I want a piece of them at the prices they're going. Am I crazy? Should I have any concern for these guys? They are both pocket passers coming off from an Achilles injury.
Yeah, I mean, coming off a major injury, there's always some concern, but first off, let me say, I was saying this all last year. The whole Rodgers coming back last season was absolute just drama queen. Like, I want the attention on me. There's no shot any surgeon in the world is going to okay that. And I think it's funny because you even said, like, Saleh said he's not playing in the preseason. So if they're as worried about him almost a whole year later, you really thought they were going to trot him out there 3 months? Like, that whole situation to me just bothered me because, like, anyone who understands that injury, there was no way in hell he was coming back that season. Like, I think it was just all to, like, I guess get some hype, whatever. But anyway.
Well, Zach Wilson made sure that he had nothing to worry about. Zach Wilson was so incredibly terrible that we didn't even have to see the drama play out. So
that is a great.
We just saw Rodgers frustrated and annoyed on the sidelines. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. So coming off this Achilles tear, right? Full Achilles rupture requires surgery. About a 10 to 12 month expected recovery timeline. And when I give my recovery timelines, I'm talking about when I feel comfortable with them getting back on the field, being able to do what they can do. He's looking at a whole 12 months. So from that regard, it's about as much time as you could ask for. I mean, we saw it took 3 snaps and he got hurt, right? So the only benefit of that is you get an entire year of recovery going into the next season. Quarterbacks usually do fairly well coming off these injuries as opposed to your running backs and your wide receivers. So I am someone
we'll talk about a running back in a minute, but go ahead.
Yeah. I also find myself taking Aaron Rodgers late in drafts because I think he is going too low. I don't expect him to be running around a lot, but I don't think he has to. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic on Mike Williams as well as obviously Garrett Wilson. So I think that he's going to have some pretty solid weapons. And obviously Breece Hall coming out of the backfield is going to have a run game where he doesn't have to rely on Rodgers doing anything crazy. So I like Rodgers this year. Are we going over to Cousins now?
Yeah, Cousins, same situation, just 6 weeks later, essentially. I've been taking a ton of him. Love him in that Falcons offense. Or do you feel similarly since it's only 6 weeks after Rodgers?
A little bit more of a pause with him because it is 1.5 months less of recovery timeline, right? And those are that 10 to 12, really, I like him closer to 11 to 12. Obviously, the more time, the better, right? So with him 10.5, I think he is projecting to be able to be available and probably start week 1. But it is his right Achilles, which is, as a right-handed quarterback, is his power leg, right? So that is where he's going to be driving off that leg. When your Achilles connects to your calf muscle, you use that to drive the ball downfield. So I haven't seen a ton of tape of Kirk Cousins at training camp yet. I
know he's practicing and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're I don't believe they're limiting him at all.
I'll have to see. So I'll have to look and kind of get an idea. I doubt they'll throw him out there for preseason, but I'll have to look at the tape a little bit and see how he's driving the ball downfield. And, obviously there's going to be some rust, right? So you don't want to – I hate when everyone jumps all over guys coming back from any type of injury. Like, you're going to have rust. When you do not get better at playing football by not playing football. Like, that doesn't – you got to have some expectations there. So, but I will be curious to see there. But, yeah, the Falcons in general, I mean, I think this has more to do with me not being sold on them as a team.
Okay.
But I think Kirk Cousins, with as late as he's going, if you're someone who believes that, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Mooney, DJ Moore are going to pay off, or not DJ Moore.
Rondale Moore.
Rondale Moore. Yeah. So, if you believe in that offense, then I think it makes sense to go ahead and get Cousins as late as he's going. But just personally, I don't love that offense.
You're not a Cousins. You're not a Falcons guy right now.
Well, I mean, my thing is, one, as much as I love Kyle Pitts being a Gator, I always do that wrong way, that way. But really, it's just look at that defense. Besides Jesse Bates, I don't know if I can name anyone on that team. on that defense, right? Because that's what scares me. I think they're going to get it maybe, but for best ball, shootout opportunities, right?
Good. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
again, as a team, not high at Atlanta on the can the offense do well despite their defensive deficiencies? Yes.
I actually know from being a Washington fan with Kirk. I mean, one thing Kirk can do is you can be down by like 30 and he can pad those stats, boy, in the second half. So you may not win, but he will make those stats look good by the end of the game. So, but that's what we're playing for here in best ball. But I see, obviously, you're talking about, like, if you're talking win totals or something like that, you have more concern there. Yeah. Finally, last one, Joe Burrow. They are obviously being cautious, giving him, I believe, some rest days and that kind of thing. Sounds like a very, very unique and painful and, kind of troublesome injury that he's coming back from. I mean, obviously, the reports sound positive. It sounds like they're doing everything precautionary. Do you have any pause? It sounds like it's a mixed bag, in the Twitter space, from people being concerned to not concerned.
Yeah, I think this is the one where, like, the most, like, fear mongering and, like, propaganda from people who probably don't know what they're talking about is going on. Okay. From everything I've seen, it's a wrist ligament injury, which when you get to the wrist and hand, yes, it does get more specialized. Yes, there's a lot smaller structures. So, you have to go to different specialists, but these guys are going to the best of the best. From everything I've read, it's just a wrist ligament tear. And yes, that is not a super common injury, but it's not like it's, anything like we saw with Kristaps Porzingis that, like, never happens, right? When, his tendon was coming out of his tendon sheath there. But I don't have much concerns with Joe Burrow, actually.
Okay, good.
Expected recovery timeline for this is typically 4 to 6 months. He's got 9.5 months from the injury to the start of the season.
Yeah.
Again, this is one where people were jumping all over the first week of tape. Like, oh my gosh, look at him. He's overthrowing this ball. His hand's never going to be the same. Like, what are we doing? Let's pump the brakes a little bit. Like, yes, whenever you don't throw he wasn't allowed to throw the football for X amount of months. So he's going to be rusty, and there's going to be rest days built in, right? A lot of these guys coming back from big injuries, Anthony Richardson comes to mind, Deshaun Watson, like, they're going to be scheduled rest days. Like, if a guy is not practicing, like, don't immediately think it's a setback or anything crazy. Like, when you go from being forced to sit on the couch and not do what you do as far as throwing the football X amount of times a day, you have to go through some type of ramp-up protocol, right? Some type of scheduled rest days. So I think that's what we're going to see with Burrow. I really don't have much concerns for Burrow.
Okay, that's good to know, because his price is certainly very palatable and way lower than we were paying last year. So that's very, very interesting. I think, honestly, all the quarterbacks are going too low, basically, and I mean, the elites are down, but also those quarterbacks from, like, that Burrow Dak range all the way down to, like, the Aaron Rodgers, Will Levis range. I think you could move them all up theoretically. And I just love the discount you're getting, which is why I typically build 3 quarterback. I mean, I've been on record of why I love 3 quarterback builds and for various reasons, but, now I just feel like we're getting such a discount on it. You could get a quarterback in, like, the 8th round, the 13th round, and the 15th round, and feel pretty damn good about all 3, especially if you're stacking them up. So you touched on the other 2. We can go through them quickly. I know former Gator Anthony Richardson and then Deshaun Watson. Any concerns for either of them coming back from their injuries?
So I'll talk about Richardson real quick. Look, and this is someone even coming out of college, as much as I loved him. He's so exciting. What a dynamic, absolute beast of an athlete, right? But I mean, last year he was on my top 5 do not draft list because of
I didn't touch him last year.
Yeah, like he just plays so physical, and he's just used to being such a beast and, like, the biggest guy in the room. You just can't do that in the NFL. I mean, you couldn't really do it in college. He's consistently never been able to stay healthy, whether it was at his time in Florida or even going back to high school.
I thought I remember you saying even his time in high school he didn't stay healthy.
No, and I can distinctly remember his last year at Florida. He hurt himself early, and he had to limit himself, and he just didn't look the same. Like, if Anthony Richardson has to stay in the pocket and be a pure pocket passer, you have problems. Now, when he's able to do it, he's God-given talent to do and move around and kind of threaten the defense with his legs. He's a problem, right? So this injury itself, we talk about a grade 3 AC sprain. So your AC, your acromioclavicular joint. So it's where your acromion and the back of your scapula so the back of your scapula is your acromion and your clavicle come together. It's a joint in the front of the shoulder. Grade 3, it's grades 1 through 6. Grade 3 is like 50-50 if you're going to have surgery or not. right? I think we've all seen the picture of Keenan Allen with the giant thing sticking out, right? So he had a grade 3 and he decided to not get surgery because it is somewhat cosmetic. However, for a quarterback on your throwing arm, you probably want to go ahead and get it done, right? So the Colts decided, hey, this is going to be the future of our franchise. Let's go ahead and get it done. Typically 4 to 6 months recovery timeline. He's got 11 months. So from this injury in particular, I'm not worried about Anthony Richardson. However, the way Anthony Richardson plays, if he does not change his style of play at least a little bit, I think everyone, Tyler Lockett is really good about getting down when there's no need to just ram your head into the wall, right? Learn to either slide or just step out of bounds a little bit. I feel better. But until he shows me that, I have a little bit of pause about because he's going so high. Yes, the ceiling is yet there. If Anthony Richardson stays healthy, absolutely he could be a smash pick. He just never in his life shown that he can stay healthy. So until
years at Florida, was he at Florida 2 or 3 years?
2 years, I believe.
Neither year he was healthy all year. Basically.
Well, the first year he came in and was just kind of like a super raw prospect, and we didn't know what we were getting. I mean, everyone saw him backflip in the end zone, but even the first year he got hurt backflipping off a touchdown. So I mean, so it's like that's awesome that you can do that at 230 whatever pounds, but maybe just calm down a little bit, man. He's just consistently not been able to stay healthy. And then, if he, like his last year at Florida where he was banged up, but he was still playing, we were significantly worse because he couldn't do, like they specifically told him, hey, like don't run because you're going to hurt yourself. So we'll see. I mean, the Colts did come out and say, we're not going to limit him in any way. He's going to do what he's going to do. I just hope that for his sake that he just has a little bit of a mental switch. Like, hey, I don't need to try to run everybody over on the field. Exactly.
And I'm going to get to that in a minute because that's like one of my biggest things in fantasy to kind of talk through, especially at the quarterback position. But your quick thoughts on Deshaun Watson, and then we'll go to that topic.
Deshaun, shoulder fracture, right? So he had a little bit of a break in the bone in his shoulder. I think it came like right under the glenoid there. With fractures, the biggest thing is time. That's why they suck when you have them during the season. When you break a bone, there's not really a lot you can do to, you can protect it or whatever, but you have to give it time to heal through the body's natural process. Off season, they're kind of great because they don't come with a huge amount of re-injury risk. It's if you can give them that time, should be good to go. I saw he was taking a rest day today after 6 straight days of throwing. Good sign for me. Tells me he was able to throw 6 days in a row. And the team is being smart and not just like, we're going to make him throw every day. Like, you got 40 days until the season. Let's make sure we pump the brakes a little bit. So it's just another thing as far as the injury, not concerned about. Just Deshaun Watson hasn't been a productive quarterback since 2021. So it's just hard for me to be.
I have like a year, I'm out on him. But I'm in on both Browns running backs, which that'll lead me into a quick running back thing, and then we're going to get back to the quarterback thing, and then I swear we'll jump into a draft. I'm trying to keep this moving, but it's so interesting to talk through. It really is. So I'm drafting both Browns running backs, not usually together, though. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to do because of their prices. But basically, when I draft Nick Chubb, I'm drafting him as my like 4th or 5th running back. So I'm going kind of running back heavy. I'm still making sure I'm set at receiver and all that stuff. And I'm not relying on him to be the second running back because I don't know when and those kind of things. How are you handling Nick Chubb? And do you think it's possible? I know we don't just look at the weightlifting. We want to see like obviously the movement on the football field. So I understand all that. With that being said, do you have hope that we could see just a decent version of Nick Chubb, which is better than a lot of other running backs?
No, honestly, like I don't have a lot to add because you said it about as well as I've heard it been proposed, right? If you're going into it with Nick Chubb being that RB 3, 4, 5, and like, hey, first half of the season, I may not get a lot, but I am picking Nick Chubb because of that potential to go out and, have that really successful back half of the season.
Right.
And you're not crazy in that. It's still, the odds are against us. Right. However, if you're going in with that mindset and you believe in that, perfectly fine, right? Like you said quickly about his video of benching 600 pounds or whatever.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Nick Chubb is a beast. There's very few humans in the world that can do that. that means jack shit to me when I'm talking about ACL rehab. The
Right.
squat is a hamstring and glute dominant exercise. Quadriceps are king when it comes to ACL rehab. So like you mentioned, I'd much rather see him single leg cutting or, doing some type of controlled balance exercises and things like that, where he's reacting to the defense and stuff like that. That is going to give me a much better indication than him being crushing stuff in the gym. Because frankly, he's always been able to do that.
Right.
So, I think that you have a great mindset on Chubb. I'm someone who personally is a little bit higher on Jerome Ford. I think that he's got some more potential. I think that's definitely a contestable point, whether you think Jerome Ford has that potential to be good enough where Nick Chubb, I'm not going to say becomes irrelevant, but if Ford is doing his thing for the first 8 weeks, it's going to be hard for them to roll out, a 70%, 75% Nick Chubb, right? And then I think obviously Deonta Foreman is worth mentioning because you can basically get him for free. He did have an injury scare recently, right? I think that was, first of all, whenever there's a neck injury, someone gets immobilized and they get airlifted to the hospital. I think it's just straight prayers to make sure they're okay on a human level.
Yeah.
Cleared. All extremity movement is huge. He's back with the team. Now he's not practicing yet, which is totally fine. I do expect him to practice probably next week, maybe the week after, depending on what's going on with the neck there. But I think Foreman, especially probably after this, he's going to be even cheaper, which I don't know how you get cheaper than free.
Yeah.
But, I don't hate that because at least early on, I do think he's got the potential to get some work, at least around the goal line. I know I was a big Kareem Hunt guy. At least maybe that was more of a betting market, but he's got his 2 touchdown games in him. I think Foreman can kind of take that role early on. But I think the way you propose Chubb is probably the best way to evaluate that situation.
Okay, one more running back proposal, and then we'll get to a couple like just injury quick questions, and you kind of alluded to in the Anthony Richardson mention. But J.K. Dobbins, what do we do with this? I mean, an Achilles injury to a running back, we think, okay, pocket passer, okay, I'm fine with Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins, but J.K. Dobbins seems like he is kind of ready to go. Chargers seem confident, and it's just been like in the last couple of weeks, there's just been kind of this like overwhelming group confidence. Do we have right to think that? Because I was drafting Gus Edwards. I early was touching the Vidal. Now I haven't been messing with that because he's running with backups for sure. So how do we handle J.K. Dobbins? Because we know what he can be, but this seems crazy.
Yeah, I just can't do it with J.K. Dobbins this year. I tried to be in on him last year. And it's not his fault. He tore his Achilles, right? Now there is an injury risk whenever you come back from an ACL or an Achilles. You do have a raised re-injury risk, right? Not only to that leg, but to the contralateral other side leg as well. It just ACL and Achilles are hard enough to come back from alone. To come back from them back to back, right? I just think we're asking for a lot. I mean, I was seeing some research and some other Twitter docs put some stuff out about we just really haven't seen a good case of a running back coming back year 1 after an Achilles tear.
Yeah.
We just haven't seen it, right? With your ACL, you can think of your Adrian Peterson, who's your unicorn. Even Breece Hall last year had a pretty damn good year, all things considered. We just don't see it a lot with Achilles. They're just really, really hard injuries to come back from. So,
especially for a running back, right? In the
yes, exactly. And this is another team that I'm pretty out on. Now, when I think about things in my head, it's not always best ball. It's usually in the betting market and stuff like that. So I gotta change my mindset on some level. Like the Falcons, for best ball, I should be more in on. But the Chargers,
the market,
their offense is what scares me. Like there's nothing on that offense that really excites me. So I mean, as far as what we're doing,
I'm a Ladd McConkey girl, and I kind of do trust Josh Palmer probably more than most. So.
I like Palmer. Ladd McConkey for me is a guy who had trouble staying healthy in college, and had trouble being a guy in college. Now I know Georgia was, as much as it pains me to say it as a Gator, but I know Georgia is kind of turning into their own little NFL factory, and so he's played with some generational talents like Brock Bowers, but. Ladd McConkey, again, the struggles to stay healthy in college. He dealt with back spasms all of last year, was in and out of the lineup. He was really never had really a healthy season where he's been that over 1,000 yards receiver, being the guy. So I don't know how everyone's expecting him to come into the NFL and do it. I just think it's because
I got about 17, 18. We'll say with Best Ball Overlay, bestballoverlay.com, use code Fanspeak. You'll see the exposures. I have about 17, 18, 15%.
Listen, I guess the bet is somebody has to step up in that Chargers wide receiver. My fear is that I do like Palmer, but I'm actually starting to get a little more into DJ Chark because he's at least those are at least guys who have shown me something in the NFL. And I know they've had their own injury concerns and injury histories and such, but I'd much rather take the shot on one of those guys than the rookie wide receiver. But you would be with most of the fantasy community. I know a lot of people love their lad McConkey.
Okay. Now I'll try to make this quick because we do need to jump in a draft. But you mentioned what I talk about a lot, and I know, like, you know, it's so funny in the fantasy space because, you know, people kind of like the zero RB folks, like their whole thesis is like these running backs are going to get injured. I'm drafting their backup. Yet, you know, they're usually the same ones that are drafting like 2 rushing quarterbacks. And so it kind of just doesn't necessarily compute to me always. And so what I struggle with is we can't, you know, predict any injuries. We know that some guys are more injury prone than others, you know, whether it's, you know, a Mike Williams, who you mentioned earlier, or Anthony Richardson, who's struggled throughout his whole entire career. Like, there are more injury prone. I also think there's kind of archetypes of a position that are more concerning, and the way they handle their own body, to your point about Tyler Lockett. And I know it was on one of the episodes of Receiver, like Amon-Ra went down and someone was giving a hard time on the sideline. And he was like, best ability is availability. And I was like, I say that all the time in fantasy.
Oh my, yeah.
And it's so true. You know, I mean, you are not doing me any good as you know, in the best ball space and drafting a ton of you in sweatpants. You know, I don't mean to be rude, but like, I was out on Anthony Richardson last year mainly because, you know, not trusting rookie quarterbacks. But then he was going to put it in our face for 3 weeks. He's going nuts, but then it just wasn't sustainable. I have the same concerns as a Washington fan with Jaden Daniels. I think he runs, and I think I put this in the comments, he runs like a cartoon character, you know, and he's just taking these hits, like getting blown up.
Yeah.
You know, there was a quote from Dan Quinn this last week, like, we need to send him to the Nationals to do sliding practice. That doesn't give me a lot of hope as a Washington fan that, like, he knows, like, hey, you know, my frame is not like super big. And even as a super big frame, I mean, Richardson does have more of that Josh Allen frame. I don't know how the hell Josh Allen has stayed healthy because he runs over people. Yeah. Somehow he's managed to do it. But, you know, to me, I think a lot of people probably get like frustrated with me when I get a little too cynical about the running quarterbacks. But when I draft running quarterbacks, I'm always drafting 3 of them because I do not believe there's a chance in hell they're going to stay healthy for a full year. Or even the ones that do. Like last year, people were like, well, Jalen Hurts was playing injured and that's why he didn't play well the last 8 games. Well, of course he was playing injured. He's like running around and taking these brutal hits and getting pushed into a wall of, you know, 325-pound men. Are we surprised? You know, like,
yeah.
So that's like the whole, like, basically my whole thesis or thing that I struggle with is, you know, I know rushing quarterbacks is like that, like dual threat Konami code. Like, I need to be open to taking them, but I cannot ignore like the risk factors for that. And so I'm always personally, I mean, I'm a 3 quarterback girl anyway, but I'm always drafting 3 quarterbacks to kind of protect for, even if they're knocked out, punched out for like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, that kind of thing. Do you kind of have those kind of things with rushing or fears with rushing quarterbacks versus pocket passers? Obviously we saw 2 pocket passers get popped for Achilles last year. Yeah. It happened anyway. I get it. I get the disclaimer, but do you have more fear with rushing quarterbacks, and do you take like then kind of protect that in a best ball build? That's number one. And then I do have a specific question about Jaden Daniels and Anthony Richardson to follow up.
Yeah, no. So, you know, whenever you get into, like you mentioned it, like the predicting injuries thing, I think you're getting into hot water. You're just, really the biggest thing is, you know, it is possible to predict injuries, but it's not possible for us who don't have all the data and information. Mm-hmm. You know, I think something that brings this up is that Christian Watson situation, right? Where they talk about the asymmetries between his hamstring muscles. First of all, that's insane that it took this long for the Packers strength and conditioning. Everyone's acting like this is like, when I saw this article about this huge revolutionary thing, I thought there was going to be something like, oh my gosh, you know, they came up with new device or something. That's honestly piss poor by the athletic training staff and the strength and conditioning staff. That should be the first thing you do, is test asymmetries. They have so much force plate stuff. So if you don't have that information, like we don't, it's really hard to do the predicting. Yeah. If you have that type of information, right? I had an opportunity to interview actually the head of strength and conditioning over at the UFL. And that's what he was telling me, right? You know, and you would expect this is a lower league thing. He was telling me about, hey, what do you got to do in the offseason? How do you prepare? We get him on the force plates. We look side to side, look at the asymmetries, and make sure we get that as symmetrical as possible. That stuff, it can be predictive. As far as player type and injuries, I will say this. The number one predictor of injuries is previous injuries. Okay. So the whole, I get it. It's injury prone because some of it is just bad luck and things like that. But the number one predictor of injury is a previous injury to that body part, right? So, I mean, I hate to say it, but the injury prone thing is kind of true just because of that regard. Now, I understand there's nothing to the player's fault. A lot of the time it's a freak thing. Football is a violent sport. Injuries happen. So for me, it is less about body type and is more about, like you're talking about, how many times is this person going to put themselves in a dangerous situation?
Right.
That's what it comes down to for me. I look at their injury history and I look at what is this person's play style, because you have, guys that aren't the biggest and that can run, but if they get out of bounds and they're smart with it, they learn how to take hits. Like Degen Dog is actually one that sticks out to me because, correct me if I'm wrong, but coming out of college, like I know at least at LSU, he didn't really have a lot of injuries.
No, I don't believe so. I don't, not to my knowledge. No.
Everyone can say what they want about, like, him being worried about him. And he's a little bit more of a frail guy. I get it. But compare him and Anthony Richardson. The naked eye, we would think Anthony Richardson would be the one who'd be perfectly healthy, perfectly fine. And that's not the case, And I understand that Jaden Daniels, yes, he does need to learn how to get down a little bit more. But, man, I don't know what he's doing, but he's definitely found a way to still be dynamic with his legs and not get injured. So honestly,
I believe there was like one or two games, and I want to say it was last year in a big game. I really am not a college football girl in season, like very casually at the end of the season. Do I really pay attention to the prospects as it leads up to the draft? But I believe there was one or two big games that he got kind of popped and had to go out for a little bit in game, but I don't think it was like a long-term injury.
Yeah, I mean, it's football, right? That's going to happen. But the fact that he's not had like the big thing, and I know because I think coming out of Arizona State, I'm trying to now. I have to rack my brain on if he did have like a major injury at one point. But at least from what I saw at LSU the past 2 years, like he takes some big hits, but again, he's been able to play and start each week and be productive. So I would be fairly optimistic there. Now, again,
you have less concern of him over Anthony Richardson because of the past injury history.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And the way they've shown that they can play and stay healthy, right? One shows that he can do what he's going to do and stay healthy. Other one hasn't. Now, is that going to transfer to the NFL?
No, I was going to say, because
it's going to be a little bit harder.
Yeah, right? That's what he was taking that's not going to work. He needs to learn. That whole quote about, Dan Quinn saying we need to send him to the Nats to go learn how to slide. Like, I think they know, this guy needs to do. I think Russell Wilson was always very good about that. Like either slide or, tiptoe out of bounds, do one of the two. But again, it is best ability is availability. And I would much rather you be like a Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and do those things you need to do so you're available. And so, as a Washington fan, and as I haven't drafted, I kind of am just underweight on rookies. I'm drafting all the rookies some, but I'm a little underweight on rookies just in general. But I know this guy could break fantasy with his legs, and so I know I'm trying to draft him more, but I have a lot of cynicism about his body size and like just the hits he took in college, and that hopefully he doesn't take those in the NFL. Hopefully, like you said, he uses his noggin there.
Yeah. So all right, I think it's we get in these best ball streets.
Yeah, let's do it.
We can definitely, and that just because we can talk through again. That's why I love best ball is you can just talk through so much, right? It just brings up certain topics.
I'm going to enter on my phone because I have had issue before entering on the computer. So let me enter on the phone here, and then you and I are going to draft together. We're going to split $1.5 million, so that's very exciting.
It's not a bad payday. I don't think the wife would mind $750,000.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm entering a BBM in 3, 2, 1. If you want to join us, I just clicked enter, and there's one more to fill. So if you want to join us, and I will pull it up now. If you want to, I have a couple slows of the ones that were launched today or the other day last week.
There we go. And then I hate to be this guy, but if you give me a second, I'm gonna go grab another beer if that's okay.
Oh, do it. Yeah,
I'll be right back. Okay.
The draft is starting, so we got time.
Yeah.
So I will pull it up. We're in the 2 spot. I've been getting lucky lately on these a lot of 1s and 2s and 3s lately, so I'm not going to complain. So let me see if I recognize any other names in here. No Fan, good to see you. Miss, you haven't seen you in the streets in our streets, so good to see you back in the streets. No Fan in here. I know I recognize Shady 261. Don't think I recognize anybody else of the names in the draft with us, but we are at the 2 spot, and No Fan is at the 7 spot. So, anyways, we got our guy, Greg, but it's spread. Watch his DraftKings show from earlier in the week. He was on, I believe, Tuesday. Andrew and Justin were on Monday. Steve and I were on yesterday. And then again, check out our mark your calendar, for our August 23rd. I wanted to put it up. August 23rd, we're going to be doing an 8-hour live stream from 4 to midnight. Andrew and I will be doing that, having a bunch of guests on. It'll be a good time. So check that out. Okay, Sebastian, we are on the clock. We got the 2 spot. We are going to be on the clock in 3 seconds.
Okay.
I assume you'd be fine with whoever he doesn't take, which would be Lamb, or do you do any crazy reaches?
Oh, I just hate drafting Cowboys.
I know. Hey, listen, if they make me money, I let it go. I draft a ton of Cowboys because I love their throw rate.
Yeah, I think we have to, as much as it pains me to say it.
Yeah, as you can see, I get a decent amount of 1 and 2 spots. So I have 12% Lamb. So that's what
I've been getting a lot. This is nice because I've been getting a lot of like 11, 12 lately.
Really? Okay, there you go. See, now you got equity in the 2 spot here.
Yeah,
so
it's
again,
good.
You're looking at Best Ball Overlay, bestballoverlay.com. Use code Fanspeak, and you will get $10 off a month. Let me pull over the board. You get $10 off a month. It makes it just $20 a month. That's less than a BBM entry, and so helps you make decisions. You'll see the overlay. You'll see the correlations for your team for bringbacks and playoffs. But then I can pull up the portfolio optimizer. I can do my own rankings. So there's all sorts of other features. I talk about the portfolio optimizer a lot in our other streams. Helps me make decisions. In fact, I'll pull it up on another window to see who I most commonly get with Lamb. And then that way I'm not doing the exact same thing, especially when you're at those turns, Sebastian. It's hard not to want to do the same thing,
No, I mean, exactly. And that's I think ideally I want to be in the middle. But that might be just like I'm an impatient person, so I'm like, damn, I make your picks, and then you get those turns, and you're like, damn, I gotta wait like a solid 5-10 minutes.
Right. So I'm pulling up my exposures here this is as of August 1st, and let me type in Lamb, and I can see some commonly drafted players with him. Let's see here. So I mean, obviously, quarterback-wise, I have Dak on almost all my Lamb teams, 91% of them. So I am stacking him with Lamb most of the time. That's not really shocking. I'm trying to look for early picks. Mike Evans, Devonta Smith, I've taken 25% of the time with him. Calvin Ridley, 25% of the time. Nico Collins, 16%. That's not that much. So I don't think there's anybody. Running back doesn't look like there's anybody. Devon A-Chain early. Kyron Williams, 25%. So I've taken them like a quarter of the time. So
yeah,
there's not one like player that I'm like, oh my God, it was Kyron Williams early. I was at like 40% Kyron Williams, but then I pumped the brakes and now I'm down to 25% Kyron Williams on my Lamb team. So that's good. And that's why this helps. I highly recommend if you have a big portfolio, it really is really helpful. So what is your favorite spot to get in draft, Sebastian? You said like 5, 6, somewhere in the middle there?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite spot, right? Okay. I think whatever spot gives me the best chance at 1.5 million, right? No, but I would say I'm I enjoy best ball, but I wouldn't say I'm at the level of your guys' expertise. So I don't know if I've had enough of those reps to really have like a strong position, really want this spot. But I think it's fun to get put up in different spots because it just makes it's a different mental exercise each time, right? And obviously each draft does, but if you're always getting the same spots, you do, some of them do kind of run together, but I do like to get it switched up and get those different types of teams. So I'm excited to be drafting at the 2 spot here and kind of seeing how different it is than that, 11, 12 turn I've been getting a lot of lately.
Yeah, 11, 12's been rough this year. That sucks. You've been doing a lot of that. It's just tough. You could certainly do different combos, but it's just hard to feel as confident in those guys as like the 1 through 9. And I'll even go through 1 through 10, like even through the Brees Hall, AJ Brown, range. So though this one was a big shock. So Shady takes Jahmyr Gibbs at 8, which is early, and maybe he is just trying to mix up his combos. He went running back. So maybe he's just trying to mix up his combos. August is the month to mix up your combinations, which Best Ball Overlay is a great way to do that. And then Garrett Wilson falls all the way. Puka and Garrett Wilson falls all the way to 12 and 13. So that's a major fall there.
That is. I mean, first of all, Jahmyr Gibbs, someone I'm not super high on because I am a Montgomery guy. I do think you can say whatever you want.
I want to hear about this in 1 minute, but we're up in one pick. And on the board, so we're on the board. We got Barkley, Ayuk, Evans, Devonta Smith, Malik Neighbors. Again, I know you're a Giants fan. I have not been taking him because of the quarterback play.
All right, just tell me
you pick.
Do you want to pick Barkley? Because in my mind, it's Benedict Barkley. I want nothing to do with him. But
you don't like Barkley, okay?
But I'm a hater.
I had some more Devonta Smith. What do you think about Devonta Smith?
So we're talking about one Eagle from another. Oh God. Okay. Oh gosh. You know what? Let's just make this a team I'm gonna hate. Let's go on Barkley. Let's go Barkley.
Okay,
let's go Barkley. Because
the Washington and Giants fans just draft all Eagles and Cowboys. So
we've decided this is an emotional hedge. Okay. It's like whenever, I think my dad texted me last year when the Cowboys looked like they were going to do something. He's like, hey, I need you to throw some money on the Cowboys because if they do win.
So I need to interrupt 1 second. We're on the clock. Your guy Neighbors just went. Devonta Smith just went if we wanted to first stack up the Eagles. So 22 seconds. We have Evans, Metcalf, Kupp at the top.
I like Kupp and Evans. I also like Kyren Williams. I'm fine with either of those. I'm big on all of those guys.
10 seconds. I'm letting you choose.
Okay. Let's go Kupp. Kupp.
I love Kupp. Listen, 19% Kupp and not mad about it. And the funny thing is, I wrote an article. Let me put the board back up and then I'll talk this through. I wrote an article about at the beginning of the draft season, like May, like these are the things I did right last year and I want to do more of, and these are things I think I did wrong and I want to do less of. And I was pretty heavy on Mike Williams in the 4th round, Nick Chubb in that second round, or whatever. And I was like, I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to be very cautious of my first 5 rounds. I'm going to be caught. I might get a little crazier then in the mid rounds and certainly the late rounds. I don't care if I have high exposure, but I'm going to be really careful. I mean, I have just tossed that right out the window. Let me pull over these exposures. Let's see. Saquon Barkley, 16%. Cooper Kupp, 19%. Henry, 23%. I'm obsessed with him. I love him. I just feel like in that Baltimore offense, but I know some people are more skeptical about that. There's somebody else. Calvin Ridley. He's like round 5 now, but Calvin Ridley, 24%. Yeah. So, I say this, it's like, do as I say, not as I do, or whatever.
Yeah.
I talk a good game and then I'm like, screw it, because then it just seems that I can't help it. Like a second, almost 3rd round Saquon Barkley, a 3rd round Cooper Kupp. I'm sorry, that's too cheap. Derrick Henry, 3rd round, too cheap. Kyren Williams, who you mentioned, I have 10% of him. I'll probably get high, 3rd round, too cheap. I can't help it. And I know we just spent, literally nearly an hour talking through injuries, and it's going to happen. It happens every year.
Exactly.
In the NFL, we watch and love a violent game, but I can't help it. I have these guys. I just,
No, you have to have your guys, right? I think sometimes we get into so much of maybe it's a fear of not wanting to be wrong, but it's cool to not be wrong, but it's better to be right, right? Yeah. Being right is what actually turns into wins, actually wins you money, right? Being right on your guys. Yeah, a lot more people are going to be wrong. It happens. Don't be afraid to be wrong. If you want to have your guys, take your guys. Now, obviously, don't get crazy with your exposure and you're just going all in on one set of teams and one set of players. But I think if you don't have your guys, then what are you actually doing? You're just spraying kind of blindly at that point.
Right. So. Right. No, I think it's important to have stands. And I think it's more the reason I got so high on these guys in the 2nd through 5th round is more. Oh, and Garrett Wilson's another one in the 1st round, because the end of the 1st round there, I don't love the other guys as much. I like them, but I just love Garrett Wilson. I think with Aaron Rodgers, he could finally explode. and I have like 17%. That's not typical for me on a first round pick, but Bijan I'm very high on in that mid. You talked about like liking that 5th, 6th, 7th. When I'm in that range, I hammer Bijan, and so I have like 15% Bijan. That's not typical for me for a first round pick. And so, but it's like, I just can't help it. I just love these guys so much. So yeah, for better or worse, we'll see how it plays out. But hopefully at least a high majority of these guys stay healthy. So we're healthy most of the season. I understand.
That's all we can hope for. That's all we can hope for. Right.
That's all we can hope for. Okay. So we are up in about 3.
All right. Yes. Let's prepare early this time.
Yes. Okay. So we're up. Yeah. Because we do have 2 very close together. So we're up at 47 and I believe 50. Okay. We started with Barkley, Lamb, Cup. Now I'm going to say I if he falls to us, I don't mind the double anchor build. I love Isaiah Pacheco, but I'm not going to force you to do it if you don't want. And then of course at the top of the board receiver wise, we have Cooper, Higgins.
How do you feel about McBride, or how do you feel about a Lamar Andrews stack?
I needed to get more of that, so I'm totally open to that.
McBride didn't go yet, so let's see what happens. I'm big on McBride, and I'm big on Andrews, and I just think Andrews and Lamar stacks is going to be profitable. Okay, well we have all our options. Okay,
so we have all our options. So do you want to do? We could also do Pacheco, try to still get Lamar and backstack him with somebody else, or do you want to do Lamar Andrews? I'm totally fine with either.
I'm not that high on Pacheco.
Okay, then let's go Lamar.
Let's. I haven't had a lot of these Lamar Andrews stacks. So if we can do Lamar, Andrews,
okay, I have it queued up here now.
If he gets snagged from us, it sucks. But then hopefully Trey McBride.
Well, there's only one person in between, so that would be hopefully not. So as you can see, I don't have a ton of Andrews. I do like the elite tight ends more this year, but it's been more that like Pitts. Okay, so we're on the clock and we can get Andrews. So we got this.
Let's do it. I really think he's their wide receiver 1 in Baltimore.
Yeah,
I really do. I just Zay Flowers is a really exciting player. He's a good player.
I like Zay Flowers. I don't get why he's going so early.
He's way too early for me. I just don't like. He's he's a really good like wide receiver number 2. Like now on a Baltimore offense where you're so run heavy, you have a run heavy quarterback and you have your 2 tight end set, he can make it work. But I do not believe that he's their number 1 option on offense. So I think it's Mark Andrews.
I've written about it multiple times. He's on my fade list. I have like 0 or 1 share. I have just not touching him. And it's just, he's going way too high for you're in the, sports betting space. Think of the anytime touchdown market. I say this all the time. In the anytime touchdown market, he's what? The fourth most likely to score, probably. Okay. You got Lamar, Henry, Lamar, and Andrews, and then he would be the 4th. Like on a touchdown hunting site, maybe other sites I would think differently, but I'm playing all underdog, and on underdog, we're touchdown hunting. And on a touchdown hunting site, I just don't trust that. He got, I believe, 5 or 6 last year. He got like 5 of his 6 or 4 of his 5 touchdowns when Andrews was out. So I'm just, I'm out on that. And I do need some more Lamar Andrews. So no, I like the start. Definitely like the start. To finish what we were talking earlier, August is going to be trying to smooth out some exposures for me, but it is going to be hard to not take the guys I absolutely love. But there are going to be times where, for guys like this combo that I just know I need more of, I need to like pump the brakes on some guys to allow me to get more of others. I'm not trying to, I still am going to have my big stands, but I am trying to balance out exposures this month, essentially.
Yeah.
So, who are your biggest exposures? Or are you still early in the draft?
Well, I was going to say, I think at this point I've only done, I think I'm on my number 4. This might be 4 for me.
You did one with Andrew and Justin, and I know. Did you and your wife do one together when you did a show? Or
no. I did it with my co-host. We actually just did one.
Okay, I like that draft. I saw that on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was fun. So again, for me, I really like best ball, but even in fantasy like leagues, like I'm only in like 2 leagues is like my max. Because I am a little bit heavier into the sports betting space. I kind of like that. And maybe it's the I don't know, what are they, millennial in me, the instant gratification of seeing your bets in and whatever. But no, I really like the best ball setting, but I think it's fun to do it on a show because it keeps me kind of like on my toes and kind of just ready to go. But obviously, it's fun to do.
It's
wherever.
exciting on a live stream. It's fun.
Yeah, because you don't know, and then you can kind of react, and it's like instead
Yep.
of just like being in the room, like, oh no way, and then the wife's like, what's going on? Like, I got Lamar got sniped from me. Like, you don't like. At least you're on with people that understand your pains.
Exactly.
So, but we talked about Garrett Wilson. I have find myself drafting him a lot. I am really high early on. Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Garrett Wilson, Michael Pittman early on. I don't know. I'm kind of, as much as like I just spent so long talking about will Anthony Richardson's get his head out of his ass and like play like he needs to stay healthy. That Colts offense to me, like I really think maybe it's again I like them.
I like Shane Steichen a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that offensive line. I think Jonathan Taylor has a chance. Breece Hall and Jonathan Taylor are guys that this isn't a crazy take, but I think both those guys have a legitimate shot at being RB1 this year. Right. I mean, Christian McCaffrey.
I've been higher on Hall and Taylor. I worry about if Richardson stays healthy, the touchdown ball train. And so that's why I should get more in on him just because I do like that Colts offense. And but
you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, when Richardson was in, he found the end zone. Right. And he was. I mean, he's a big dude who likes to run over people. Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, Joe Flacco showed us even off the couch, he's still got it. So he's their backup quarterback. So, if that happens, I'm still not completely think that team's completely frozen.
Oh, true. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so. No, he definitely, that does actually give me a lot of confidence that if Richardson doesn't stay healthy, that the other offensive pieces can still be elevated by Flacco in that offense. So,
yeah.
Anthony Richardson went 56. Are you not planning on taking much this year based on the conversation we had? Well, actually, we'll answer that in 1 minute.
Let's
We have 2 picks. So we started 1-1-2-1. What do you want to do here? There is Donkey.
Oh boy, and Hopkins. Oh boy.
So I mean, we definitely aren't going to draft Hopkins probably at his ADP, but I'll queue up some guys I like. You've got David Montgomery if you wanted to get a second running back, though he has the same bye week. Kamara, Brian Thomas Jr. Anybody?
Out of those, for me, it's Montgomery by a mile. But I know you got different opinions with the Lad McConkey.
No, that's okay. And we won't take any other week 5 running back buys.
Week 5 buys, yeah.
I am a bye week girl, as they say.
That's good. No, that's good.
I'm a bye week girl. So I don't think we need to take another running back now. We started 1-2-2-1. We're going to be on the clock. McConkey went. Brian Thomas, not sure how you feel about him. Hopkins is there.
I want nothing to do with Brian Thomas.
Okay, so then you got Keon Coleman, Jordan Addison, Jameson Williams. You could have some team correlation there.
I would go, in my opinion, Cortland Sutton.
Okay, you go Cortland Sutton. What about Curtis Samuel? I know a lot of people have talked about.
I think the Bills, you have a real good chance you're going to have 3 or 4 wide receivers with about 700 yards. I don't know if we're going to have that alpha to step up. And I think Cortland Sutton is an alpha. I think he's the number one receiver.
Back up for, as you can see, 20 picks. So I think it was good to just feel really good about that wide receiver 3. So yeah, I wanted you to make sure that's why I queued up a bunch of wide receivers there. Is Brian Thomas for you just I'm like right with the field right now, 7%. Is Brian Thomas for you just the kind of the mystery box as a rookie, or do you not trust him in the Jaguars offense? What's your thoughts on Brian Thomas?
Yeah, so a couple of things. For me, I think he's a player who greatly benefited from having a Heisman quarterback and, in my totally biased eyes, the best wide receiver in the draft on his team in Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels. He was a guy who didn't do a ton his first 2 years, and then he had 1 year that he really popped, right, with 17 touchdowns and things like that. I'm not a huge Trevor Lawrence guy. I think he's been given, it's almost like he's like given the number one entitlement of just like, oh, we'll make excuses. Oh, he won that one playoff game where he threw 4 interceptions. Like, oh, we'll keep making excuses, right? So that Jaguars offense for me, I'm not super high on. I think Evan Ingram actually is the one that for the Jaguars that I target a lot because I think he has an opportunity to have a lot of targets. Christian Kirk, but Evan Ingram is really the one guy I do take from that offense. It's partly a rookie thing. It's partly, I think he benefited a lot from being on a really good team with 2 other really good players. To me, when it's It's where, like, the group effect makes you think a little differently than if you isolate the individual. It's like, maybe I don't love what's going on here. So that's kind of what I think is going on. I think a lot of people were seeing that electric LSU offense, and they were just kind of like, oh yeah, Brian Thomas is a first round pick too. Like, look at his stats. And I don't think, for me, I'm not someone high on Brian Thomas, but I was fading him before he was on the Jaguars. So, this is someone I just didn't think is going to be like the guy right away.
So you want to hear something as a Washington fan, not a college football scout by any means. My brother is for Fanspeak, and I try to read other, scouts and that kind of stuff. But that's kind of my concern about Daniels, is he was surrounded by elite weapons, a good offensive line, a good, just talent on offense. And he only had the one good, like, breakout year. Like, if he would have come out the year before, he would have been, and I guess our current GMs basically said it to him through Brandon Ayuk, he would have been a 5th round pick. So that whole 1 year, like, blow up wonder thing scares the hell out of me at any position. So you kind of said it for Brian Thomas. The inverse of that is like the Heisman year. And hey, maybe I have a lot of Heisman rushing quarterback scar tissue from RG3. And I know Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback than RG3. From everything I've read, I get it.
Yeah.
So I think a much better person too, because RG3 was a pain in the ass to listen to. But I just, beyond worried about the injury stuff, I just worry, like, was it a 1 year wonder? Was he just surrounded by elite weapons? That kind of stuff. So
I don't know. I think he's an older quarterback, first of all, right? I think he played 5 years in college. So you get some of that where he's got some of the maturity. LSU last year, he played pretty well. Obviously last year he played great. I'm talking about the year before.
The year before. Okay.
Yeah, he was a pretty good quarterback. Like, he was not, now, did I think he was going to win the Heisman? There was potential, but, he definitely really stepped up. I think some of that did have to do with their defense excuse my French, but it was dog shit. Their defense was terrible last year. So they did have a lot of shootouts that led to padding stats and things like that. But I would say, honestly, again, Brian Thomas is a lot bigger of a concern for me for being a 1 year wonder than it is Jaden Daniels. Okay. But you're fair. I mean, it's your rookie, quote unquote, franchise quarterback. I think anyone should be, cautiously optimistic and kind of have their concerns.
Right. Okay, so we have 2 picks coming up here, and 95 and 98. Jordan Addison fell all the way. I know we have these suspension concerns. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. Even being a pick guy, he's just the off the field stuff. I don't love what I've seen out of him. He did have some good weeks with Justin Jefferson out, but what quarterback situation are we going to get there?
Yeah. So Palmer went. He was my other kind of pick. I love. I know you don't like.
I know. I like Palmer too.
We got Tyler Lockett. We have Raheem Mostert.
What are your thoughts about what's his bye? When's his bye?
It's not 5, it's 6. So okay. I would be totally comfortable with Mostert.
Yeah, I like Mostert.
Shoring up. I like playing it so the running back hits the flex. So are you fine with Mostert?
Yeah. I think he's going way too low. I think it's similar to the Lions. Everyone sees how dynamic Gibbs and Achane are, and think that the head coach is just going to fall in line. Like Dan Campbell
should get a 4th receiver here, because as much as I do like addressing other positions, it can get thin quick. We can do like an 8 receiver build, but so we got Addison, Lockett, Shaheed, Doubs.
I think we keep it to the top 2, between the top 2.
I'll let you choose. I mean, if we get, I'm actually a little more bullish on Darnold in that offense.
You like Addison? Let's do it, because I like Lockett, but I'm worried.
Let's get a pick guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because JSN
better judgment, but
be a little bit smarter next time, bud. But I think JSN's emergence scares me for Lockett. Like, I really think he's got a good potential to take him over, and I think that's being reflected now in ADPs. But
it's definitely being reflected in ADP, and I took quite a bit of Lockett earlier when that wide receiver avalanche would hit, and you were like, okay, well, I need to get a 5th receiver. Then I would take a lot of Lockett and Mike Williams, and now they've kind of fallen. Those are the ones that I'm kind of pumping the brakes on and trying to get others. So this was a good example of kind of balancing those exposures. So
and I mean, Gino, and we'll see that Seahawks offense. It's just, what Gino are we gonna get? Like, I hate to say it, but Geno Smith's had one good year in the NFL.
Yeah.
You know?
I know a lot of people that are bullish on him. I'm a little just nervous. Like, what's the offensive line going to be? Yes, it's Ryan Grubb coming from Washington. It could be an amazing system, but like, what are we going to get in the first year? So I'm like, it feels so unknown to me that I'm a little
extremely unknown. And like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, you got Abraham Lucas coming off a knee injury where he
right.
had
Yeah. Speaking of injuries, that offensive line was decimated last year.
Yeah, and I mean they were serviceable after a little bit, but like he was out 11 games last year from a chronic knee injury. Now you can get a knee scope and hopefully clean some things up, but the thing with those is you've only got so much cartilage and your meniscus in there. Once you take it out, it's not coming back, right? So
right.
I think that we've seen guys like Ryan Ramczyk who was forced to retire, like Ryan Jensen. Like when you start to get, I mean, they're big dudes. You're carrying around 300 plus pounds on your body every way. Like the joints feel that. When you already start to have issues, it can just kind of cascade into further issues down the line. So I'm a little bit worried about Lucas as he tries to make his way back.
Yeah, no, good to talk about some of these other positions of injury note, as we're drafting here. And I do apologize. I know you said you might have to go in 5 or 10 minutes. I do apologize. I kept you so long.
No, it's not good.
It's so fascinating to talk through injury stuff. I could have asked you questions for like another 2 hours. So I apologize that
don't apologize. Listen, I can talk about injuries forever. I usually am concerned, like, all right, are we having foreheads hitting the notebooks? Like how far is their sleep falling asleep? So
no, I was so fascinated. I kept asking questions because I'm so obsessed with it.
Hopefully the audience appreciated it and things like that. Yeah, probably in the next about 5-10, I'll have to hop off here.
Well, we'll get through the nice because we'll at least get through the first 11 rounds here because we're coming from 10 and 11. Not sure if you'll stay for 12 and 13, and then I'll try to land the plane.
Yeah, we could talk through some of those late dart throws that maybe
that would be great. That would be great.
That would
be great. No, I mean, hey, the first like 12 picks are the most important. So
So
that's building the structure of the team, and then we can maybe get some dart throws after we make these few picks here. So
so let's start. Talking about structure. Where are we at right now?
Structure wise, we are 1-3-4-1. I usually like a 1-3-5-1 in the first 10, so this isn't far off. I will say because we were a little lighter on receiver, it probably could be like an 8 receiver build, especially since we got Mark Andrews, we could certainly only do 2 tight ends. So that's for certain. So we're coming up at 119 and I believe 123. So if we're looking at
the receiver,
I mean, I like Wicks. I don't know your thoughts on him. Then we've got some guys I'm about.
How do you feel about Polk?
I was gonna say I just queued him up. Lots of positive talk about Polk. And speaking of the Colts offense, I need some more Josh Downs. I think he's going to be the number 2 receiver in that offense, not Mitchell who goes ahead of him. That's my opinion. Wicks unfortunately just went. It would have been nice to get a piece of that Packers offense. So
what do we feel about Mike Williams? I know he's not anywhere in our.
He's fallen a good bit, but you just said as the injury guy that you're concerned. I've taken, as you can see, 21%. I took him a lot early. We're on the clock. Do you want to take Mike Williams? It gives us another stack option with someone we talked about in Rodgers too.
Yeah, I think. Well, if you want, do you think we could probably grab him on the turn? Do you want to take 2 wide receivers, or did I misunderstand you?
No, let's take 2 wide receivers here. So
if you want to go Polk first or down, I think we go Polk first, and then I think Williams will fall to us.
Okay, sounds good. So you said when we were kind of talking things through that you don't have much skepticism on Williams. I know he's been an injury-prone type guy, and multiple injuries. But why do you feel more confident in his comeback this year?
So I'm cautiously optimistic with him.
Optimistic.
No, you're good. But part of it is his ADP, right?
Yeah.
I mean, where are we potentially getting him at?
122.
122.
I'm totally fine taking him there.
Yeah. So I think he's got a strong chance to be a really good wide receiver too. Now, they talked about he's going to be on a similar timeline than Breece Hall was, right? He's got 11 and a half months of recovery timeline from off that ACL tear. One of the only benefits of injuring yourself early in the season is you get a lot of recovery time for the next season. So 1, that's a plus. 2, the Jets are going to be smart about it. And we saw Breece Hall, his first 4 weeks, he was on a snap count. He was limited in his touches. And then, boom, they just let him go. And he went wild. right?
Yeah.
So I'm expecting something similar there with Williams. Obviously, it's hard to project him to be Brees Hall with his production, but I think you have a quarterback who loves big targets. Aaron Rodgers, whenever he's got a big tight end, he kind of uses them, right? And Mike Williams is a big guy.
A lot too, yeah.
Yeah, he's a big guy in the red zone, and Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall just aren't that big, right? Yeah. So I know you have Tyler Conklin down there, who's interesting in some situations, but I really think that Mike Williams has a shot. When he was at the Chargers last year, he was trying to be like the number one guy, and I don't know if he's really that's where he is going to excel. But you're going to be going against the second best cornerback, where you're probably going to have a size advantage, and so I think touchdowns wise, I'm pretty optimistic on Mike Williams. I know I took his over on his receiving. I think he's like 4.5 was the number on him.
Oh, okay.
So it's someone that I do think has that touchdown potential.
Yeah, and we're touchdown hunting here. Yeah, so I like that.
That's my thing. And then the thing with Polk, really quick, I know he shot up boards.
Yeah,
I took him at like 40-1 to lead the receivers, rookie receivers. So just the rookie receivers in receiving yards. You look at the New England wide receiver room.
He's going to be the guy. Yeah, the wide receiver one. Yeah.
If not, it might be me or you, because who the hell else is going to take some, it's almost like I feel bad for Drake May, man. I am not a Patriots fan by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I don't think anyone who grew up with watching Tom Brady just destroy your team all the time is a fan of Patriots, but
you don't have to feel bad for Drake May. Yeah, a couple of down years. I think they'll start Brissett, for a good chunk to start, so they don't just throw May to the wolves. But I do think they'll get May run this year and stuff like that.
All right, let's talk through some.
Yeah, let's talk through. Yeah, absolutely, because I know you need to go. Let's talk through what are some late round running backs, receivers, tight ends. I'll probably try to shoot for the Rodgers stack, maybe another back stack.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I can look at the team real quick to see.
Yeah, so what we got here through 10, 11, we got a 1-3-6-1. We got Lamar, Barkley, David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp, Cortland Sutton, Jordan Addison, Jalen Polk, Mike Williams. So we kind of waited a little on the backside of the receivers, but then really addressed it, and I like that. And of course, Mark Andrews stacked with Lamar. So I like where we're starting. I like the start. It feels like structurally really sound. So who are some, later running backs, receivers, tight ends? As far as quarterbacks, I'll try to just fill out some other stuff.
I was going to say, if it's quarterback, if you can you show me who's not been drafted yet, real quick?
Yeah,
I know Rodgers. It's either Rodgers or Stafford if he hasn't gone yet.
Okay. Yeah.
Those would be ones I would look at, because Demarcus Robinson is another guy who I like to take late. We talked about Tyler Conklin potentially, with that situation. Now, a little bit of the Giants bias, and I know you can get him at the very, very end of rounds. The leading wide receiver for the New York Football Giants the last 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, has been Slayton.
I love Slayton.
I think everyone forgets about him. 13%.
13%.
Yeah, that's just I don't know if I've seen someone with that high of a percentage other than myself. So that's good. Those are some deep darkers. Also, Jawan Johnson. I do want to throw him out there.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Someone who has been.
Wait till you see his percentage. Hold on. Yeah,
everyone was on him, and then they saw this injury, and they just like jumped off. Like,
injury. He's going to be fine. Or should be
fine. Fracture. He's got enough time. Maybe it's not week 1, by week 2, 3, he's going to be okay with not a lot of injury risk. So. Yeah. Those are some of the dart throws that I'll throw out here before I have to head off here.
Any running backs late that you like? We're going to do 2 more since we have a solid room.
I don't mind Ray Davis as a little bit of, hey, maybe James Cook isn't the guy, at least in the red zone.
Okay.
Khalil Herbert, I'm assuming Roshan already went.
Roshan's pretty late, actually. So there's.
Did he? Is Roshan still?
Yeah, he's down. Wow. Yeah.
So, hey, he came in first off a Hall of Fame. Now, what does that tell me? Who knows? But I'm very much in the camp of that running back room is a running back committee.
What do you think about a late Tank Bigsby? I think he's looking good in camp. I know it's hard after the year 1, but it seems like he's the direct backup.
I don't mind it. I do think ETN, he's very productive. Like, it's hard to me, as much as I don't like that Jag offense. So
we're coming up at 143. Do you like any of these running backs? Elliott, Lloyd, Agier? That's kind of
Chuba is the only one that I would say.
Oh, I love Chuba. Actually,
I would do Chuba just because Jonathan Brooks in that situation, which won't have time to talk about, but Chuba. So I guess we'll do these last ones, and then
let me do this. Do you want to take Stafford here with the stack?
with Cup, and then potentially getting DeMarcus Robinson, maybe if
Yeah.
he falls. Yeah, I would say Stafford, and then if we can get
and then I can
Chuba,
just put, and then I like Chuba, and then we can just take a flyer in the last running back, and then I can fill out these receivers and tight ends. So
like it, yeah.
So yeah, I think okay. So we'll take Chuba here. I mean, I've been taking him. I know it's a little early, but I've been taking him in this range 150s. I think he's going to get a ton of run, and I know you kind of said as much with the guys too.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. Be sure to follow at the Degen Dog on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us. I promise to land this plane, split the 1.5 mil. We'll get you back on again. And I really appreciate going over all this injury stuff. Have a great rest of the night.
Yeah, maybe the 23rd, maybe join the party. But hey, happy Friday, everybody. Cheers. Have a great time. Go USA in the Olympics, and I'll see you next time. All right.
All right. Love it. Thank you so much, Sebastian.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right. Take it easy. Okay. So we are going to get Chuba. I've been huge on, as you can see by my exposure, 21%. Don't care. I love it. I love getting a piece of that Canales offense. He seems to want to run the ball a lot. Yes, Jonathan Brooks could be more relevant through as the season goes, but I still think it could be a split. And when you're getting him, in the where did we get in 13th round, I'm totally fine with it. So we started 2, 4, 6, 1. We've got Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, obviously both stacked with Cup and Andrews, elite tight targets for them. We've got Barkley, David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, Chuba Hubbard, then CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp, Cortland Sutton, Jordan Addison, Jalen Polk, Mike Williams, and Mark Andrews. So probably going to do only 2 tight ends. So I may want to address the tight end position, in the next kind of go around here because I still would probably want to get 8 receivers here. And you know me, I kind of talked it through with Sebastian, but Lamar's a running quarterback too. And I know people are like, anybody could get injured. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers and Cousins got injured last year. We talked it all through, the best prediction of injuries, as he said, is prior injuries. So I get it. We can't predict injuries, but with rushing quarterbacks, Lamar has been injured 2 of the last 4 years on IR. Running quarterback, I'm going to do 3 quarterbacks, even if it's 1 in the last round. So I'm not going to force that, but I will look for a stack, even if it's in the last round. So we'll see. I would only take Rodgers if he really fell, since we took Stafford in, I believe, the 12th or 13th round. So yeah, I may look tight end next just to shore up that room. Though I do love the Conklin call. We'll see if that kind of matches with ADP. And I do love the Juwan Johnson call. If we were doing a 3rd tight end, I would love that because I just think he's going way too low for his price, or for what he can do in the Saints offense. He was the week 17 hero last year. So Conklin, I also queued up Henry because we do have some just team correlation. I know Patriots aren't a team. I try to target good teams, aren't necessarily a team you love to target, but we do have Polk, could open up with Drake May, stack with 2 guys if we wanted to get Hunter Henry. And then Conklin, we have Mike Williams. So I'm kind of open to either of these tight ends as they come around here. Let me just pull Henry up. And I kind of like the build we have of 2, 4, 6, 1. Quarterback will be like a late last round or 2 stack, last round or 2 for the 5th running back. Right now, I'm going to try to get the 2nd tight end, and then just filling out 2 more receivers that I'm comfortable with. And Sebastian mentioned a couple good ones to keep in mind, especially if we could double stack Stafford pocket passer with both Kupp and Robinson. Don't know that I've done much of that, so I would actually really like to do that. Let's see what Nolt fans got going. So he's got a Tua Jaden Daniels stack. So you got Terry, and looks like we got Jalen Wright, Jahan Dotson. So he's stacking those 2 teams up. But like a lot of his early round picks of Bijan Robinson, Devontae Adams, Derrick Henry, like that I talked about a lot. Wrote 2 articles. Check them out. Fanspeak.com. All articles are free. Wrote 2 articles about hyper fragile build, about double anchor builds. We considered the double anchor build with Isaiah Pacheco tonight. I love the double anchor build and leaving the first 6 rounds with two running backs because of what the running backs prices are and who we are potentially getting. Those two running backs kind of anchoring things. So love that. Love what Noel Fan's doing there. And then Noel Fan just took Hunter Henry. Good. I like it. I mean, he was falling. He was, I believe, ADP 150 and he fell to 162. So yeah. We got Seats 501 in chat. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Great best ball preview with Sia, Meg. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yes, on Fantasy Football Today, DFS. I've been on with the Fantasy Football FFT CBS show with that crew. And then I am with Sia every, let me make this pick and then I'll tell those details. So probably here, 167. I'm just fine taking Tyler Conklin. Yeah, Rodgers is gone, but we're just getting team correlation here. And I think Conklin is like a very solid tight end 2 with Mark Andrews. So I like that a lot. Where did Rodgers go? I'm actually just curious because he sometimes falls more than I think he should. Okay, so we'll be on the clock in a minute. So yeah, Kirk Cousins went the end of round. Kirk Cousins went the end of round 13. Rodgers went the beginning of round 14. Geno Smith went round 14. So we'll be on the clock. So yeah, we didn't get Rodgers, but we got Mike Williams and Conklin. I just love getting teams stacking up good teams. I mean, I think Jets could be a top 10 scoring offense this year. So did Demarcus Robinson go? I believe he did, unfortunately. God. And I can't type. Yeah, Demarcus Robinson just ran a couple picks before me. So I'm going to get another receiver here. I know this is probably going to gross people out, but you just kind of with the receiver structure we have, I just kind of want a steady Eddie. Don't have a bye week 11, so I'm going to do Adam Thielen. Don't judge me. No. So yeah, now we have with the little break 2, 4, 7, 2. This will likely be a 3, 5, 8, 2. So we're done at tight end. Get a late quarterback, late running back, need another receiver. So we only need 3 more picks. And hopefully we can tie in Slayton, who Sebastian mentioned. So I like that. But yeah, Thielen I still think he's going to be, the wide receiver 2 in that offense. Bryce Young's looking a little better in camp. I just think he's kind of just that steady guy, more of a floor play than a ceiling play, but just good to mix in with this receiver room. So I like that. So let's see. We will be back up at pick number 191, 194, and 215. So 191, 194, 215. So we're going to take off the tight end. Actually, I'll hold the Bears running backs he mentioned. I think he liked Roshan better. I actually really like Tank Bigsby later. And then we can look at Slayton to try to get here as our 8th receiver in one of these next couple picks. Will Levis is still on the board, but unfortunately we don't have any Tennessee stacks going. Still 15 picks away. But obviously quarterbacks we could stack. We have Drake May. We have Bryce Young. So you have Adam Thielen, Bryce Young. You have Drake May with Polk. You have Bo Nix. And this will gross people out. And I don't know if Sebastian would be appalled if I did this, but I've only done it once or twice. I know Hayden Weeks mentioned it on Weekly Winners. I think Sam Darnold is going to start longer than people think, and then you get like a super low owned. Yeah, granted, if JJ McCarthy takes over and you don't get a full season of Sam Darnold, then you're only working with basically a 2 quarterback build, which I like 3 quarterback build, and he does have the same bye week as Stafford, so that's not as optimal. But to speak to Seats 501, thank you. Yes, I'm on with that. Sia Najad every Tuesday in season doing DFS preview. We got to do a couple best ball previews. Love doing shows with Sia, so check that out on Fantasy Football Today DFS. That was really fun to do, and I'll probably be sharing that on Twitter again. Yeah, Demarcus Robinson went earlier than I thought. Thank you for joining us in chat, Hartman. So yeah, he has been getting a lot of good reports. I was really hoping to double stack Stafford. That did not work out for me. Says he likes Wandell a lot in that range. Yeah, I've been waiting and doing what Sebastian says and taking more Slayton later. Star Kindler, great to see you in chat. Jordan Whittington. Haven't done that yet, but let's see what do we got here? Let me look at all my options here. So yeah, you never know. Cue it up. So I am going to try to get Slayton since have the Giants fan on. We can do that with maybe the next pick. I mean, Slayton usually falls. I mean, when you're in the last few rounds, I don't get too fussy about which ones where, or massive closing line value in these last rounds. I just kind of want to make sure I get the guys I feel the most comfortable with. So I'm probably going to get Slayton since we talked that through with the Giants fan, even though it's not stacked. You could take a low on Jordan Whittington. So I appreciate the Starkindler throwing that out there. I certainly was not on Puka and Kyron as much as I should have been last year. August is the time where you look for these diamonds in the rough. So let's see here. Do we go? So quarterback, do we lose May? We lost somebody. We lost Bryce Young. So do we go Bo Nix or do we go? I'm going to go Bo Nix. Got a different bye week. Then we'll get Slayton, and then we'll just get a fifth running back. That's how we're going to play this. So we got 3 quarterbacks stacked. Oh, shit. I messed up. Bo Nix does have the same bye week as Lamar. I mean, on these stream drafts, I get mix up the multitasking, and I think I'm doing it right, and I did not. I hate doing that. So I'm going to get Slayton for Sebastian. He's a Giants fan. We both like Slayton. Let's go get him. So we have a 3-4-8-2. Unfortunately, I took Bo Nix with the same bye week. I thought he had a different bye week than Lamar and Stafford, and he did not. But there was a little run. I saw a little run in quarterbacks happening, and I wanted to grab that third quarterback. I always do. It's protecting for injuries, floor weeks, but what it's also protecting for is, okay, say a guy like Lamar, especially a rushing quarterback in the injury situation. We talked about injuries a lot with Sebastian. Say he gets popped for like 6 weeks. This happened on my BBM3 finals team. Dak goes out the first 6 weeks. Maybe it just helps you have 2 quarterbacks for 6 weeks, and that can significantly help your score, because it is so close usually for that second, third to get the top 2 spots to advance into playoffs. So I do like having 3 quarterbacks to protect for all that, but I also then in playoffs, especially in BBM, in a gauntlet of 1 of 13 in the quarters, 1 of 16 in the semifinals, I love having 3 stack options too, because we don't know which quarter. You can sit here and predict and project all day, all summer, but we do not know which stacks are going to go off 15, 16, 17. Did you think it was going to be Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff 15? No, probably a lot of people didn't think those were going to be the 2. It was Lamar in week 17, but it was also Jordan Love. Earlier in the season, you wouldn't have thought that. So we don't know. And that's why I like having 3 quarterback stacks to just give me that optionality. And I think there's some data from Mike Leone that says 3 stacks. And especially if you can do bringbacks, can kind of help your expected value. So I saw a little run of quarterbacks since Bryce Young went and Drake May went. So Drake May went. Levis went. Obviously, we didn't have a stack with him. Drake May went. We had a stack with him. Bryce Young went. We had a stack with him. So I wanted to grab a quarterback. Got Bo Nix. Kind of either one was going to have the same bye week because my other one was a low on Sam Darnold. So I think Bo Nix is the safer play there. And I still like having 2 other quarterbacks for the season with Lamar. Got Darius Slayton. Got Sebastian's guy. Unfortunately, one of my favorite late picks has been going earlier, Tank Bigsby. So we are going to be really taking a flyer at running back here because I don't feel comfortable with the hyper fragile in this situation. So I'll take out Darnold. I'll take out Jordan Whittington, but I love the advice, Starkindler. And Roshan is still there. Let's see, my bye weeks, we got, so definitely no 5. We got 5, 5, 6, 11. So just as long as it's not bye week 5. What's the deal with Dameon Pierce? I thought he was supposed to play last night and then he didn't. Find a bring back for Stafford week 14 and Galbraith to the moon. I like it. So that's the great thing about Best Ball Overlay is you can look at the bringbacks. So obviously with Stafford, they play San Francisco, New York Jets, and Arizona. So I don't know that I'm going to Galbrain like a third string running back, though I know I have heard some people since what was the running back Benson got a little negative coach speak. Connor's been getting good coach speak, have 10% of him like that. I saw somebody take DeMarcado the other day, so that would be the Galbrain move of the week 17 to the Rams. And we're up in one, and Roshan just went. Do we think Dameon Pierce is going to get traded? I do not know what's going on with that situation. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there's weird coach speak now. He talked about Donta Foreman. Maybe I'll do that as like, even though I've been much higher on Ford and Chubb, maybe you just get some value and he's basically free. Let me scroll through. I mean, this is another like late pick coming off an injury. So I don't know his thoughts on that. He had a multi-ligament tear. So we'll go Donta Foreman. And hopefully he wasn't a week 5 bye, because I'm not paying attention well enough, clearly. So we'll look at my team and we'll look at Noel Fan's team, and then we will get in here. I kind of wish I would have taken Pierce there. I've been taking a ton of Pierce. I thought he was supposed to play at this in the Hall of Fame game, didn't. And I have been starting to think about Lob. Quite honestly, I don't usually wait that, like my last picks, I was earlier taking CH. Now I'm nervous about that pick. Like the Pierce pick, still love the Tank Bigsby pick, but he's now going, he went the round before. So, felt like I won that third quarterback stack, got that. Maybe I could have waited on Slayton and taken like a Tank Bigsby in hindsight, because I don't like waiting. The last round, I'd much rather do like a quarterback or a tight end. Or like a flyer receiver, because these running backs feel a lot riskier to me. I think it's much harder to find the Kyren Williams situations. But yeah, Dylan Lobb is one that I've heard people talk about. I want to give some consideration to. And yeah, I do love taking Pierce, and I probably should have taken here. So let's run through this team real quick. Then we will look at Noel Fan's team and get on out of here. So from the second spot, we did a 3-5-8-2, Lamar Jackson, Matthew Stafford, Bo Nix, all stacked. Did whoopsie daisy on 2 week 14 buys, but hopefully Matthew Stafford is healthy then to play in week 14. So we kind of regret that. Then we have a running back room of Barkley, anchored by Saquon Barkley, a run back to obviously CeeDee Lamb, week 17, because that's how we started. And then David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, Chuba Hubbard, and Donta Foreman. So had 2 week 5 buys, but then balanced it out with no more week 5 buys. Then our receiver room of 8, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp, stacked obviously with Stafford, Cortland Sutton, stacked with Nix, Jordan Addison, Jalen Polk, Mike Williams, who Sebastian is not as concerned about coming back from that cleaner ACL. Adam Thielen and Darius Slayton, who Sebastian and I both like as a last round or two of the draft pick. And then, of course, Mark Andrews stacked with Lamar and Tyler Conklin. As you can see, 27%. Rodgers likes his tight ends in the red zone, so don't mind that. And I think he's a good second tight end with Mark Andrews, and I got team correlation with Mike Williams. As far as run backs, not a ton of, I don't think I did really great on the week 17 run back, but there's definitely some run backs on some other weeks. So, obviously all of our quarterbacks are stacked. Week 16, you have Mike Williams and the Rams and that's Conklin too. So that's the great thing about Best Ball Overlay. It's got the parentheses. If it's your stack, it's got underline if it's a bring back. And so, yeah, I didn't do as great job as far as playoff correlation in this one. Again, messed up the bye week quarterback. Probably would have rather Pierce at the last pick, or maybe switched around so I could have gotten Bigsby with my last running back pick. But other than that, really wish I could have gotten DeMarcus Robinson to follow me for a double stack. Could have done better with my bringbacks. Oh, we have Darius Slayton too as a Baltimore week 15. So, could have done it a little better with my bringbacks, but overall, it's a fun team to do with Sebastian. Great to talk injury talk with Sebastian. Let's look at Noel Fan's team really quick. So he, from the 7th spot, 3-5-8-2. He did Jaden Daniels, who we talked about today, Tua and Gardner Minshew. Then we've got Bijan, Derrick Henry, love the double anchor start there. Najee, Jalen Wright, Tank Bigsby. I love that running back room because you did double anchor. You got Najee with that value range, and then two like kind of like upside guys late. Love that. Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin, Hollywood Brown, Curtis Samuel, Brandon Cooks, Jahan Dotson, Jalen McMillan, DJ Shark, and George Kittle and Hunter Henry. The only thing I'd say about Noel Fan is I would have maybe looked for a late Dolphins receiver or Jonnu Smith at tight end, but maybe that got sniped from you. Not sure. Love the room of Kittle and Henry. Absolutely love that. Love some of your late receivers. So yeah, I mean, obviously, Gardner Minshew. Let's see, what Colts stack? Colts. He's Raiders. Sorry, you stacked him with Devontae. So yeah, you obviously stacked all your quarterbacks, Devontae with Minshew, Terry McLaurin with Jaden Daniels and Dotson, and then you stacked Jalen Wright. That's so I was talking about. It would have been nice to get Johnny a receiver, but yeah, you got a kind of pass catching back and right there. So I like this team a lot. So I think you got and it looks like there is definitely got some more. Actually, no, there's just a couple bringbacks for him too. But again, the most important for me is team correlation and, stacking up all your quarterbacks. And then, also you can look for those skinny stacks. Like I got Lamb and Saquon to start. Like on Best Ball Overlay, it'll tell you there's a section of the Best Ball Overlay of obviously your types of builds, your exposures, your combinations, but then it also shows your playoff stacks. And by far and that's when you're stacking with the quarterback, by far, I think 25% week 17 stacks are Philly, Dallas. But I have plenty that are like without Hurts or Dak. And like I did today where I have like CD and Barkley, or I'll have Devonta Smith and Zeke, something like that. I think you can get those skinnies too. So Hardman said, nice squad. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you to Sebastian for just spending all that time and talking injuries with me. I really, really appreciate it. Again, like this episode, before you get out of here, we are on a road to 1K subs. When we hit 1K subs, we will have a $1,000 party giveaway. So be sure to tell a friend. All our articles on Fanspeak are completely free, so check that out and mark your calendar for August 23rd. 8-hour live stream party. Friends of Best Ball is getting expanded. So, and as you know, we use Best Ball Overlay. Be sure to check that out and use code Fanspeak. So this has been fun. Thanks again to Sebastian. As always, check him out at the Degen Dog on Twitter. Hopefully we can have him back for more injury talk and more drafts. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful Friday, and I will see you next time.